We are all capable of being leaders, but we don't always get to choose when that happens. As leaders, we need to give others permission to join us in spreading the love of God. When we lead well and invest in others, our fruit will grow on their trees. We must multiply.
You know, we're reminded that our lives can change in a moment's notice. We know that things have happened, it's a normal day, then all of a sudden, everything changes. Maybe it's a fender bender, a car accident, something takes place, a phone call, maybe a doctor's appointment did not go the way you had hoped. Maybe you've been one of the lucky parents to get a phone call from a principal that tells you may need to show up and have a meeting. But maybe you've been that kind that if you've ended up in the emergency department, the emergency room of a hospital. You coming in, you're not sure what's going on. There's chaos, fear, uncertainty, confusion. There's lights, there's sounds. They're talking in a language you don't understand, and they're just calling out all of this stuff. And you're in there, and you realize everything has changed. Everyday life has just changed. And everybody in that room is now acting like your life depends on it. That your life, it just depends on it. What they are doing now is so mission critical that they are focused solely on you. And so I want to talk about that today. What is this mission critical and understanding what that life is like? So I've asked my friend, Dana Dutz, who is the charge nurse at Porter Regional Hospital in the emergency room the department. And so I've asked her to come up and just help us. Yes, welcome Dana. Yeah. Now, Dana went with us and ran medical clinics in Guatemala, and I've actually seen her in action in the emergency room, and the only thing I've ever seen her afraid of, and all those things, was these chairs. So she was really nervous that she was going to fall over. So she's doing great. All right, so I asked you in the first service, so what made you want to become a nurse, and specifically an ER nurse?
Surprisingly, I actually never really thought I was ever going to be a nurse. I was a paramedic before I was a nurse, and my husband was a fireman, and still is. And when we started to have children, they were very young, and we figured that one of us probably shouldn't have a really dangerous job. So I went to the dark side and went to nursing school, and that's how it happened.
Okay. All right, so when emotions are running, what emotions are running through your mind when you hear the trauma call? And I mean, it's you know it's about to happen.
So when we know that something critical is coming in, we have about 5 to 7 minutes to sort of rally the troops. And, you know, there's fear sometimes, depending on what it is. There's excitement. I know that sounds weird, but it's exciting to really be able to do your job that you're there for. And there's just sort of a checklist that opens up in my mind that says, okay, these things need to be put in place, and these people need to be put in place, and these resources need to be put in place, and it happens very quickly.
So you have 5 to 7 minutes when life is depending on it to get everything ready to roll.
Yeah, usually right around there.
Okay, wow. So not all ER visits are emergencies. You know, that you've told me about people came in with sore thumbs from texting. Yeah. That's a different meeting. But when it's life and death and everything is high stress, what are the things that you're thinking?
It's actually when things are at their worst is when we have to kind of be at our best. And that's when it's really beautiful to watch in the emergency room, because everything is like just a perfectly choreographed dance. Everybody has a role to play. Everybody, regardless of whether you're friends, regardless of whether you're the same age, you're from different countries, you speak different languages, you automatically just kind of go on high alert and focus in on what needs to be done, which in those cases are to provide the best care for that person and their family.
Wow. So once that happens, and you know, as a charge nurse, and I've been watching Chicago Med, and I don't know what a charge nurse is. So what does that mean? What is your role in the ER as the charge nurse?
I'm kind of a combination: air traffic control, resource management, Yeah, that's probably a pretty good way to put
Okay.
it. I make sure everything is in place for people to do their jobs. Make sure that everybody is doing okay, both on the patient side and on the staff side, because sometimes those critical patients can be very stressful.
Now, we don't have to say names, but you had told me a story about somebody that had to do a procedure and they were really nervous. It was on a young child. And can you just, when they didn't want to do it, it was going to inflict pain on this child, even though it was going to help them and make them better, it was painful. And so how did you have to handle that as the charge nurse?
Yes, this was a really high stress call. This was a very critical young child, a baby really, and we had a nurse there she's awesome. She does a great job at this procedure. Like you said, was very stressful, and she said, "I'm not going to do it. I can't do it. I can't do it." And her name's Kim. I call her Sully, and I said, "Sully, you're going to do this." And I put her hand on the tool that we needed to use, and I put my hand over hers, and I said, "We're going to do this together." And she did it, and then the next time that we had to do it, I was just able to kind of sit back and watch her kind of take ownership of that.
Yeah.
And it was awesome.
All right. Hey, thank you so much. You guys tell her thanks. Yeah, very cool. Well, I appreciate Danny coming talking about this. One of the phrases that she used in first service and in this service and as we met this week was a perfectly choreographed dance. So, what makes the ER function like that? What makes the ER function like a perfectly choreographed dance? Is it just a commitment to excellence? Is it a group that just said, you know what, we're going to do it better than everybody else, and so we're committed to this? Or maybe they're just dedicated. All the staff, nurses, technicians, anesthesiologists, doctors, they're just that dedicated of an employee. Maybe it's just an unbelievable work environment that everybody wants to work there because of how well you're taken care of. Or maybe it's just passionate people, qualified, trained. I'm sure that those qualities are all needed, but I think they're kind of empty without a clear number one goal. When our life is on the line, we want the ER to be at a peak performance. We want that ER focused. I do, right? You do? If I'm coming in an ambulance and my life is on the line, when I get in there, I want them working at peak level. I do not want to go in and they say, "Did you see what's for sale on Facebook?" You want focus. You want attention. You want them to understand what is mission critical, and that is to save my life, to do whatever is necessary, to save me. We want everybody to not just know their jobs. We want them dedicated. We want them committed. We want them passionate. We want them qualified. We want all those things, but we want them to execute their given task flawlessly. We want them to function with that one goal, and that is to get me out of the ER whole and healthy. That's what we want. That's what we expect. Every one of us, if we go by ambulance anywhere, or you have to get in a car and have a friend or a spouse or someone take you to the ER, when you get there, when I get there, we have an expectation. We have an expectation that these are the things that are going to take place for our lives, because our lives depend on it. And that's what we want. So thinking about that, I wonder how the hopeful of Valparaiso feel about the church. I wonder if the hopeful, the people that do not have a regular rhythm of fellowship with Christ or a believer in Jesus, that I wonder how they feel about the church. I wonder if they ever hope that the church would function like a perfectly choreographed dance. Now, when I'm talking about the church, I'm not talking about a building. I'm talking about us. I wonder if the church, I wonder if we ever said, you know what, we had one priority, one goal. And we kind of get that pretty clear in Matthew 28. 18 through 20, and the verse will be up on the screen. It says, Then Jesus came to them and said, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore, Go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. Now, this is the resurrection of Jesus. This is the bonus 40 days he gives his followers, and he is about to ascend into heaven, and he is telling them the last things he wants them to hear while he is on earth. Now, I have been with enough families in final moments. I've been with my own family members in final moments. And when we are on that moment, when we are going to separate, we tell them the things that are most important. We talk about how much we love somebody. We talk about how proud we are. We talk about the things that are wildly important to us. We want to communicate clearly to them so that they understand where we stand, where we are on certain issues and topics. Not one time in all the years that I have been at hospice bedsides or in hospital bedsides or sitting with someone at home and we know they are in final days, that they say to me, I wonder what the Cubs score is. Not one time. Not once. They're usually talking to a loved one. They want to make sure that their children know. They want to make sure that their spouse clearly understands. They want to make sure that that coworker that they have worked with side by side for a long time, they want to make sure that all of that is right there. And so we get this praise in what we call the Great Commission in Matthew 28. We see where it says, go and make disciples, go baptize, go teach. So in other words, go multiply. And I wonder what would happen to the church if we were to multiply like our life is depending on it. Or maybe better yet, like their life is depending on it. To multiply in such a way, to be so passionate, so driven, so encouraged, that we understand that if this does not happen, it is mission critical to our existence. It is mission critical to the hopeful of our community. And so I want to talk about just three things I believe we need to multiply. And here's the first one, and they'll be up on the screen as well. Multiplication takes relationship investment. Multiplication takes relationship investment. When we are multiplying, we are investing relationally with people. We're giving of ourselves, we're serving, we're mentoring, we're investing our time, our talent, and our resources in somebody else. We're giving of ourselves to someone freely. Not because it makes us look better, but because it's mission critical. It's what we do. It's an investment into the kingdom. This isn't about, I want to be better. I want you to think of me more highly, or I want you to hold me in a higher regard. This is because this is what the kingdom of God looks like when we are pouring ourselves into other people. See, this is what I believe happens, that when you and I invest relationally in somebody, and we begin working with them and teaching them and spending time in their presence, and you grow together, you learn together, you challenge each other, and you move forward, then your fruit begins to grow on their tree. Your fruit begins to grow on their tree. And then what happens is, when they move forward and begin investing in somebody else, you can see your fruit moving on down the line. And there is real power in that. Because frankly, relationships are confusing. People are challenging. I mean, we say that we value people, but it comes across like we value stuff more. We say we value community, but it comes across we really value convenience. And we say we value relationships, but we're okay discarding them when we disagree. I mean, think about this. I know that people are difficult. They're a challenge. I know how weird I am. You're pretty weird too. We all have that thing that makes us tick, but here's one of the things that gets me. When believers in fellowship and community disagree, what we tend to do is we part ways and we separate. And we just let someone go there and they go our way, and we just don't ever talk to them. It's unbelievably awkward in a town our size when a believer that you have discarded, who still believes and you still believe, We've just taken up different residences at other churches. We run into them at Town and Country. Because now what do? We start walking like this. I am a firm believer heaven is going to be unbelievably awkward for you. Because I think God has such a sense of humor. You're going to spend the first 10,000 years in your mansion next to theirs. When you go out to cut the grass, they're going to be staring at you. When you go out, there they are. They're looking right at you. So let's take the time now and make it right that way. I don't want heaven to be awkward for any of us. But I bet that's what happens. Because what we have, as long as we hit no pushback, we're okay. But as soon as people begin to push on us and challenge us and try to make us better, then it's like, well, I don't need any of that. I can move over here. See, people are challenging, and we must live in a relationship with a harvest mentality. And I believe Paul captures that in Galatians chapter 6. Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. Whoever sows to please their flesh, from the flesh will reap destruction. Whoever sows to please the Spirit, from the Spirit will reap eternal life. Let us not become weary in doing good. For at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all people, especially to those who belong to the family of believers. See, we have to buy into this principle of consequences, that we will reap what we sow. What we put into people is what we're going to get out. See, there's this organic relationship between the seeds that you plant and the fruit that comes in the harvest. If you want to eat an apple that you have grown, the only way that is unbelievably possible is for you to plant apple seeds. If you try to plant something else and expect an apple, well, that's just crazy. It doesn't happen. It's impossible. So if we are wanting people to get here and we want to produce that type of fruit, then we got to invest in planting the right seeds. Because there's consistency. There's a consistency between the seeds of words and actions that you and I plant in our relationships that will equate the quality of the harvest. So it's what we are putting into it. Because every day you and I are harvesting relational plants that have come from the seeds of words and actions that we have planted and others. See, I have credibility as the pastor of this church, not that I have not earned on my own. I have credibility because of men that have gone before me, families that have gone before me that began back in 1924. So when we say we're a part of the Nazarene Church, it's not just what we did here and now, this week, last week, this month. It goes all the way back to 1924. When a group of families decided there was something different, something better we could do for the community. Now see, that's credibility. That is harvesting seeds. That's harvesting fruit that I did not plant. You and I have that same ability. And with the seeds that we are planting, the actions that we are putting in the ground, that we are taking care of and nurturing and watering and spending time with, will produce fruit on this side. And if we are going to multiply, then you and I have got to spend time in the garden. Because we all need to be invested in. We all need somebody to invest in us, and we all need to mentor and coach. Every one of us needs a coach in our life. We need somebody speaking into us to tell us the hard things. If you really say you love me, then you have to be able, with the proper relationship and with kindness and compassion, to tell me the hard things. So many of us, that's where we separate. Because when someone tells us something we don't want to hear, then we boom off. We just go. We separate that. But there's something about this that can tell you the hard truths. Now, I got to tell you, my friend Keith that you saw on the screen earlier, a number of years ago, we were working out, and he said, if it's just hard to stay motivated to just work out. You got to be training for a goal. And I was like, okay, tell me what. He goes, that's why he was doing these races. And he would do some half tries or mini tries. And he said, hey, I think you should do the Valpo mini triathlon with me. And I thought, well, okay, I'm working out. I could do that. I can ride a bike. I can run, I can swim, I can do this. So I started on this regiment, and so I go to the Y, and I got on the elliptical machine, and I started going. I went, well, that's not bad. I can do that. That's not hard. Now, this is where it started going downhill. Besides the idea, this is where it really started. It just took a turn for the worse. And so I got on the bike. Now, I don't know if y'all have done this, but those bikes that they ride, those seats are really narrow. And I looked all over the Y for one of those really wide bottom seats, and I couldn't find them. You guys got eyes, so you can see that there's a girth issue on one of those little seats. It's painful. So I rode like 10 yards and thought, that's stupid. I got off. And so I'm thinking, well, if I could figure a way to do 2 of the 3, then I could limp through one of these. I would figure out, I could solve, but I had the running I could figure I could do, but the bike, okay, that hurt. I'm going to the pool, and I'm going to start working. And I learned to swim. Maybe you've learned to swim this way. I was scared to death of the water. My mom is petrified of water. Bathtubs, it's a life vest for her. So I had to be careful, and I had this healthy fear of the water, so my dad just shoved me in the pool. And then you learn to swim. So I was confident from a little kid I would know how to swim. And I got in the pool, and there I went. I stretched first, and I started. And I'm thinking, all right, I got this. And I am not making this up. This is the honest to goodness truth. I am swimming for all I am worth. And I'm thinking, you are a triathlete. I believe those words really went through my mind, and I felt a tap on my back. And I thought, how are they keeping up with me? But that was not the point. And it was about a 110-year-old woman that was standing in place, and she said, can I help you? And I'm thinking, no, I'm swimming. She goes, no, you're not swimming. You're in the fight with the water, and you're not winning. And she said, I really think I can help you. And at that moment, I had to swallow for the next 25 minutes a lot of pride, a lot of embarrassment, because all this time I'm thinking I'm a swimmer. I can swim. Now, I may have been able to save my life, but I was not swimming in a straight line. This woman spends the next 20 minutes, 25 minutes, helping me understand what it means to swim. So I gave up swimming the triathlon because I thought, I'm going to drown in that lake. That's no good. I'm done. But there's something about accepting help and someone telling you the tough truths, coming to you and saying, this is what needs to happen. And this is what needs to happen in your life. I love the fact George Lucas said this: mentors have a way of seeing more of our faults than we would like. It's the only way we grow. The second thing in multiplying I think we have to have, it takes leaders leading. Multiplication takes leaders leading. When we all lead at a certain level, it maximizes growth potential. For us to reach the top goal, we've got to multiply, and we need as many people multiplying as possible. It can't be done with just a few. It needs everybody, because this is about legacy. This is about what we're leaving behind. And remember, the mission is not about expanding our message or our brand. It is about us reaching what God's message is and expanding the kingdom. That's why we celebrate at VNC. When Grace Point does something good and Ben Lamb and those guys, we cheer. We cheer. When Liberty does something great, we celebrate. When Calvary is doing these things, we're excited because it's about the kingdom. It's not about the brand. Not at all. And so we have to expand. And we've got to create more leaders leading and multiplying thinking, shifting our focus from just me to others. Because I wonder if we step back and we look at what the gifts that God has given you, the gifts that God is giving me, and if we really honestly asked ourselves, what is the most God-honoring thing I could do with the talent that He's given me? I know you have abilities to go out and make money. I know you have abilities to go out and make friends. I know you got abilities to focus and function in our community. But what are we doing that is God-honoring? What are we doing that at the end of the day we put our heads down and we go, you know what? This is something God's blessing. Because we're in mission, it's critical, and we're acting as if our lives depended on it. I mean, how are we using our time, our talent, and our treasure? I mean, I've always heard that where we spend our most time and our resources is what we love the most. In Matthew chapter 6, verse 19 through 21, it says this: "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." And I mean, for the most part, we're all treasure hunters at some point. We gain, maintain, and keep, and we decide what's valuable to us and what we can't live without. But not every treasure is that valuable. So what are the things that are most valuable right now? The things that I want to experience every day that I'm unwilling to live without? That I wonder if God could give us a passion so deep and so burning that is to invest in other people, to multiply as Jesus called us out to do. John chapter 14 says this: "Don't you believe that I am the Father? Don't you believe that I am in the Father and that the Father is in me? The words I say to you, I do not speak on my own authority. Rather, it is the Father living in me who is doing his work. Believe me when I say that I am in the Father and the Father is in me, or at least believe on the evidence of the works themselves." This next line: "Very truly I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these, because I am going to the Father. And I will do whatever you ask in my name, so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. You may ask me for anything in my name, and I will do it." So Jesus is telling us that the great things that he did, he's actually empowering us to do even greater things. Not that we will be greater than him, but that we will do even greater things because he is empowering us to go and do. So in other words, this is a room full of Lamborghinis waiting to come out of the garage and go full speed. That if Jesus says, not only are you going to do the good things that I was doing, but you're going to do things even greater, then he is calling us to go and do, to be empowered, to take off. So Jesus' investment in his 12 disciples, some would even say, that really didn't work out so good. I mean, one completely turned against him. Others disowned him. Some of them just ran. Maybe it was a little bit of a flop, but the closest to him even struggled. But however, it was that investment in those men where he said, "You will be my hands and my feet." And he sent them out to the four corners of the world. That's how we get the church we have today. They took the gospel that way. Donald Miller says this: "The strongest character in the story is not the hero, but the guide. The guide is the one that keeps the hero on track." So we have got to have more people multiplying more people. Last one. Multiplication takes leaders granting permission. When we see leadership potential in those around us, we've got to bring them in and offer them opportunities, saying yes to their potential gifts. See, sometimes what we have is we get our little area and we begin to hold on to it like it's ours, not his. And then we control it. We control it. And I happen to believe the root of sin really goes back to the desire for control. Because if I can control my life, I can control the outcome, and I can control you, that is the root of sin, is to be in charge. Matthew 6:32 says this: "For the pagans run after all these things, and your heavenly Father knows that you need them. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." See, when the kingdom is first, it's about his kingdom, nobody cares about credit. Nobody cares about who did what, who did where. It's about the kingdom, as long as that's the number one priority. So we understand in Scripture that we want to do this and we want to give this back, but there's this piece of us that we tend to hold on and we grab a hold of it. But we got to be permission bearers, permission givers, and looking at people saying, "Go and do and run. You are a Lamborghini, go." We need to release and have this part of what we do. See, Jesus had this way that he would look at his guys and he'd say, now go out. Go. Do it. Try it. He never would have asked Peter to stand on the water if he couldn't have done it. See, sometimes we view our relationship with Jesus like he's the bully with the magnifying glass and the ants. But he's calling us to go and do, not because he wants us to fail, but because he wants us to succeed. It's about the kingdom. It's not about making you better or me better or you look great and me look great. It's about the kingdom. And if the kingdom can look great by you running and doing, then go. Go do. And he's calling us to do these things. So we can hold each other to high relational standards of God's word, but we also got to rely on giving grace back to each other. Because people are messy. Remember we talked about that? They make mistakes. We do dumb stuff. Every time we read history books, every one of us stop at some point in the chapter and we go, I would have done that. I wouldn't have done that. I would have done that differently. Probably. But people make mistakes. You've made mistakes. I've made mistakes. But to go forward, we got to give ourselves that high standard relationship, but also grace that comes with it. Our confidence is not in the ability we have in God's law, but rather in the life-giving, heart transformation that comes living in relationship with him. I love how Henry Nouwen says it. It says, Jesus did not respond to our worry-filled way of living by saying that we should not be so busy with worldly affairs. He does not try to pull us away from the many events and activities and people that make up our lives. He asks us to shift the point of gravity, to relocate the center of our attention, to change our priorities. Jesus did not speak about a change of activities, a change in contact, or even a change of pace. He speaks about a change of heart. He speaks about a change of heart. Now, there may be people in the room who are going, man, I hear you, but you have no idea how hard it was for me just to even get up and get here today. My life is so out of control. I get that. And there are people sitting there going, yeah, I've never been called a Lamborghini before. Yeah. But there is something about the beauty of the community that we work together. That when we invest in each other and reach out, these unbelievable, powerful things take place. The relationship investment in leaders leading and leaders granting permission. It's just, becoming a fully devoted follower of Jesus Christ doesn't just happen. We can say that statement over and over and over, and it's not going to change who you are. It's not going to change me. And there may be somebody in the room that is so uniquely gifted, God has so anointed you, that maybe you could do it on your own, but I doubt it. I wouldn't bet on you. We need each other. We need leaders investing in your life and in my life. We need to go out and multiply. And that's the way we fulfill the gospel. That's the way we expand the kingdom. And that mission statement happens. Fully devoted followers of Jesus Christ happens when we do it together. I mean, I wonder how different would the kingdom look if each one of us said, you know what, I'm investing in one person. That everybody said, you know what, I got one person. I can do that. I can give of myself to one person. I can expand that way. I can multiply that. I wonder what would